Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Monday Night Magic with your favorite epigenetic geeks, my dear friend Ken Close and myself, Lori Falk. We are thrilled to be here with you and discuss a topic that's near and dear to all of our hearts, the art of manifesting. And right before I started the recording, I mentioned that I've taken not one, but two manifesting courses in the last month. And I just get little tidbits here and little tidbits there. And we're going to just really share those tidbits with you here tonight. And, the one thing I said to Ken is everybody thinks they're teaching people how to manifest. You can't teach anyone how to manifest any more than you can teach someone how to breathe, how to digest their food. We just do. We're doing it 24/7, whether you like it or not. 24/7, whether you like it or not. So, what we want to talk about tonight is instead of just doing it unconsciously, let's up the ante and do it consciously.
I love it.
And
That's the whole point. The conscious manifestation. We're manifesting all the time anyway. Everybody, we know this. We're manifesting all the time, irregardless if we're doing it consciously or subconsciously or even unconsciously. We're always manifesting something, and we're going to talk about really what pieces go into play to create that very distinct signal. And I'm going to give a little bit of understanding also about what is let's call it the soup in which signals are actually going out and attracting back. What is the medium in which all that happens? It's a fascinating, fun thing, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
yes, in fact, speaking of that, I found a quote today that I thought I would love to share with all of you. This is really the essence of what we're going to be talking about tonight. So this is by Paul Levy. And what he said is quantum physics reveals to us that turning the gaze of our attention towards anything is a powerful creative act that orders, energizes, and potentiates whatever our gaze falls upon. Focusing our attention is an act of creation in and of itself. Our beam of attention intersects and interacts with the multidimensional probability waves that hover in a ghost-like state of unrealized potentiality that comprise matter in its unobserved state.
Wow.
Let's unpack that, Mr. Close.
And this is a fun part. What I would say probably one of the most significant words you said from that quote is ordered. The fact that the word ordered, we often navigate through our lives tap dancing around what we want, right? And when I say want, it's more like I said, it's a want, which is a state of not having, right? It's literally the word I want, or I wish, or hope even. I know you guys are probably going to blow me up for this one. That word hope is a indication of not having or lack, right? So when we say I hope this or I wish that, it's not an order. It's not an order. It's can I? Is it okay to? Maybe is it possible? It's not an order. And what you said there, and that what good part of that is when we order something. This is the art of manifestation because it requires a bit more than just an ask. There is the requesting part or the ask part, but oftentimes, how many of you guys just shoot me a number, a 111 or something in the comment if you've ever kind of asked for something but really didn't want it. You're just like, yeah, you kind of ask a little bit. You kind of say, well, maybe, I would like, but if it doesn't happen, I'm okay with that. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about me. I'm just me, not significant. Right. No, that's not actually ordering anything. I'm a military man, and we got orders. It was the training in the military is, it is as if your life depended upon it. And in some cases it does. When there's an order, we may not have all of the exact details around the one who created it, but we respect its significance and then follow its causation. Well, the universe is just like that. Now, the difference is, though, the universe kind of knows why you're ordering or requesting. I like the word ordering better. It knows because when we are looking at manifesting something, when we are designing something intentionally on purpose, it doesn't just satisfy or quantify us. How many of you guys have ever really worked hard at something, a goal, and in its fruition, in its creation along the way, many other people benefited from your task, right? Your order. This is exactly what I'm talking about, because in the universal principle, the law of attraction, it's going on all the time. And what I'm attracting, the people that are interacting with me as I'm attracting it are also getting the benefit. Does that make sense? So let's talk about the key piece in manifestation. How many of you guys have had an idea, right? I have an idea. I want X, Y, Z. Awesome. And then what? What do? You're fired up for a day or two, and then and then maybe it fizzles out, right? How about those New Year's resolutions? Anybody do any of those things? The first of the year, you're all jacked up. Woohoo, this is my year. I got a year to do something awesome. And you make these commitments, and then after a week, right? I don't know, maybe they're fizzling out. If you're really good, you've held on to them for maybe 2 weeks. But the point is that they maybe don't go all the way through. So we have an idea. An idea is great. Nothing wrong with an idea. An idea is, I believe an idea is a gift from God, a gift from the divine, because I didn't have it before. Where'd it come from? Right? This is an idea. This is a gift from the divine. And I'm like, every idea I attune to, I like, okay, what do I do with this? All right. But that's just the first step. That builds a couple of synaptic connections. So anytime you guys read a book on how to do something, I like to use the example, how to build a birdhouse, right? You read a book on how to build a birdhouse, awesome content in there, right? That idea or that new knowledge builds about 2,500 synaptic connections. The brain wires together about this information. Great. Well, if you don't rehearse that content within about the first 48 hours, half of those synaptic connections are pruned away. And the reason for that is because the brain is 100% efficient. It just wants to be efficient. It's only 3% of your overall body mass, but it consumes up to 20% of your entire energy load, the resources for your body. It's a small thing consuming a lot of energy, so it needs to be efficient. This is what's really important. And in epigenetics, there's a phenomenon that says that neurons that wire together fire together, right? Okay, so this is when you get an idea. They fire together. But if you just read the book on the building a birdhouse, that's those synaptic connections, and they prune away over time. But if you were to take the instruction and you start getting your body in action, and you go out and you purchase the materials and you start cutting the materials, the wood maybe, you start hammering the nails, and then maybe you smack your finger with that hammer, and then there's pain involved, right? Suffering, that builds a whole nother bundle of synaptic connections around it. The measurement, the analytics, all of that builds more synaptic connections. Then you start to paint it, and you start to smell the paint, maybe you smell the wood when you're cutting it. Again, more sensory inputs to that neural bundling around building the birdhouse. Then you put it out there and you hang it in a tree or something. You start to see the birds come in, and you're feeling an emotional bond and attachment, gratitude and joy and abundance of the birds that build a whole life within that house you made. Now you've got a whole neural network, right? Essentially, when it comes down the road, decades or just, a lifetime down the road, when it comes to building a birdhouse, you've got an entire default neural network around building a birdhouse because it's so strong. There's so many components built around it. Now that is how you take an idea and manifest it into reality. But the piece about the idea is the cognitive portion, the part where the body gets involved in terms of the action, the suffering, or I should even say the challenge, and then as well as the emotion. And this is what we're really going to talk about too a lot tonight, is about that last piece. It's not even the last piece. It's actually, in my opinion, it is the most powerful piece. It is the emotion assigned to the task. Lori, you want to expand on that?
Oh, 100%. A number of years ago, I renamed my business Head to Heart Healing. That was a very conscious decision because I knew that 99.9% of the work I was doing with people was getting them out of their heads and into their hearts. Because until you get here, nothing else matters. Think about this. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. It's really about feeling. And I told you guys, I've taken not one, but 2 manifesting classes. Not only that, I re-listened to Wayne Dyer's Manifesting Your Destiny CDs. Of course, I watched them on YouTube, but there's 6 CDs. There's 6 sections to this. And it's not until you get to number 6 that he touches on the main focus of the entire program, which is how are you going to feel when you have what it is you want? A number of years ago, I had gone through Dark Night of the Soul. Lots of stuff had happened in my life, and I was invited to a manifestation circle. Okay, that was nice. And they said, come with one thing you want to manifest. We're going to have a bonfire. It's a full moon. Great. Come with the one thing you want to manifest. I'm walking around for like 2 weeks going, one thing? I need a whole new life right now. One thing? I can't come up with one thing. So I listened to Wayne's Manifesting Your Destiny, and I got to the 6th lesson, and it was, how do you want to feel? Well, part of that Dark Night of the Soul I had gone through was major depressive disorder. So feel, how do I want to feel? I want to feel joy. Are you kidding me? I'm not even sure I remember what that feels like, but I want to feel joy. So I go to this manifestation circle on my bike, nonetheless, because I didn't have a car at the time. And I drive my bike down there and I sit in the circle and everybody goes and I'm last. And, people wanted to manifest college educations for their kids and money for a new room on their house, or you name it. All kinds of stuff was talked about. And I'm last, and they get to me. And I said, I'm manifesting joy. You could have heard a pin drop. Nobody else had thought about that they could manifest a feeling. So I figured if the focus is how you're going to feel when you have what it is you're going to manifest, at that moment in time, what I really, 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 really needed was just to feel joy. And honest to God, I didn't even know what was going to make me joyful, because the list was so long of things that needed to just get changed up, if you will. And I literally manifested the most incredible things in the next 6 months. It was otherworldly. I could have never made the list. I manifested everything from somebody bought me a brand new car. Are you kidding me? Someone I hardly knew. I met a multimillionaire. He couldn't stand seeing me without a car, and he bought me one. Okay. And then I stumbled upon the School of Spiritual Psychology. I manifested stumbling upon the School of Spiritual Psychology. And all of a sudden, I am now in alignment with my soul purpose, because two things that really rock my world are spirituality and psychology. Amazing, considering I'm a life coach now, but I didn't know what life coaching was back then. So I couldn't have manifested that either. So it was all about joy. What was going to need to happen in my life to bring joy? And all these things just kept showing up and showing up and showing up. So I implore you, get very, 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 very crystal clear about what you want, but more importantly, how you want to feel.
100%. I mentioned that we're going to talk about principles, right? And the feeling is actually number 2. What? Wait a minute. No, but we have to have a number 1. What would be a number 1? There's 10, by the way, and we'll kind of sort them out as we go. But think about this. Number 1 is like what Lori was saying, her fretting about what do I want. And how many of you guys want, I want 1,000 things. I can't pick just one, right? That's so relevant. And yet, if you were to just think about it for a second, if you were to, like Lori said, to feel joy, if you were unconditionally within the feeling of joy all the time, wouldn't it make sense that everything else that came to your life would feed that, right? Everything. So if you wanted more money, if you wanted a better relationship, if you wanted a better physical condition, right? All of those things, if you had joy, they would already be there. Yes? I mean, to me, it just makes sense if you were to pick one thing and it would transcend, or I should say amplify everything else would just fall under it, then joy is a great one. It's a great one. And just to feel that feeling of joy, no matter what. Does it matter how much money you've got? No. Does it matter what relationships you're in? No, because they're all filled with joy. You're filled with joy in all of those conditions, all those circumstances. So that's an amazing one. That is actually the feeling of it is number 2. The number 1 is to have the vision, to have number 1 principle around manifestation, conscious manifestation, is to have a vision, to have some kind of a vision. And it doesn't have to be a business plan. Ladies and gentlemen, a manifestation is not that elaborate, really. I mean, it can be, but it doesn't have to be that elaborate. The universe is extremely aware, just in case you didn't know that. It's extremely aware. And so you can have a vision, but then when you couple it with a feeling, the embodiment of it, now you're super clear, right? So number 1, it's the vision. You're going to need to know, exactly what you desire. And it's not what you wish, it's not what you want, but exactly what you command, right? What you order. What is it that you're ordering? So that is your vision. You see it. And our senses are not by accident. These senses that we have, understand that the eyeball itself is just an organ. It's just an instrument. It doesn't see anything. It just does its miraculous job of lensing, adjusting, focusing, making light, taking more light in, less light in. It's just an organ that does this cool stuff. The interpretation is the brain, right? The brain interprets all this signalings, all this content, but who assigns meaning to that? What assigns meaning to that? Your awareness assigns meaning to all that. We can't cut your brain open, look into a brain cell and see green.
Cranberry sauce. Right?
We don't see the color green. We don't see a tree. We don't see our own beauty. We don't see any of that. So it's not there. It's the mind that uses this brain, the organ of the brain, to interpret the organ of the eye, to assign meaning to it. right? We can all agree on certain things. Like we've all been told that right there is a tree or that's a car, but how it's being interpreted exactly within our mind is variable. So that clear vision, number one, clear vision. All right. Number two, the feeling. The body does not know the difference between something you make up in your mind or an experience you encounter in a three-dimensional world. The body is the instrument simply hosting the feeling of it. And feeling is to the body as these thoughts are to the mind. And so the two orchestrate together to build an experience. When you want to manifest something, it is an experience that you create that sends the signal out. So our brain, all these synaptic connections, remember that birdhouse we were building earlier? All that neural networking you built in the brain, all of that is electrical pulses, energetic pulses that draw those synaptic connections together and bind them in the wiring diagram, you could say, right? So that binds them. And the wiring diagram just is an efficient network of thinking, feeling, and actions around a memory. All right. So after you've read the book on building the birdhouse, after you've built the birdhouse, all of that is just a memory, right? You've completed it, and it's all assigned in this neural bundling, and it sits there as a reservoir for you to reflect on. And when you reflect on it, what happens? How many of you guys have had such an emotional experience around something, and then decades later, you have a scent of some aspect that was in that experience, or maybe a color or a car or an environment, a sunset, something. It triggers that memory, and all of a sudden your body gets this, wow, you're right in it again. Now, this could be a positive experience or a negative experience. A lot of times those traumatic experiences are burned into the body, right? And so some semblance of that experience comes along and it triggers us, and we go into fight or flight mode. We go into some kind of defensive thing because of a traumatic experience. It's no different. Manifestation, when we're trying to build something, even a memory that's already built, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand, even a memory that's already built. Now, follow along here for a second. It's going to be a little bit of a curvy ride because even a memory that hasn't occurred yet, think about this for a second. A memory that hasn't occurred yet. Wait a minute, Ken, how can a memory be a memory if it hasn't even occurred yet? Well, here's the thing. When you rehearse something in meditation, when you have a fantasy, anybody ever had a fantasy? When you have a imaginary experience, that builds synaptic connections, an event that later on when you rehearse it, it's a memory. What? Think about that. These are synaptic connections physically built within the brain, roadmaps to an experience that hasn't even happened yet. The body doesn't know the difference between something you made up in your mind or something you had in your three-dimensional experience. The synaptic wiring, the memory imprint is still in the brain. The hardware, the software is all still built based on something that didn't even happen yet. Perfect example. Have you ever worried about something that didn't even happen yet? How many of you guys have thought worst case scenario? Anybody? Well, no, none of you guys here. I know nobody here has ever thought worst case scenario. I get it. But maybe you know somebody out there that has said to you, comes up, running up to you, oh my God, you know what's going to happen? And you say, has it happened yet? No, but just let me tell you, right? And they rehearse it, and it's so energetically, emotionally, and cognitively imprinted that they're having a full-on experience right there in that moment of something that hasn't even happened yet. This is what I'm talking about. This is building a memory of the future, something that hasn't even happened yet. That's manifestation. So when you build you have the vision, the feeling, you have this desire, you build all of those components within the brain, you just made an entire neurological bundle around what it is that you desire in your life. And the reticular activating system, you guys have heard me mention this, the RAS for short, RAS, reticular activating system, processes 400 billion bits of information per second. And when you put a memory into the brain, it becomes part of the processor, part of the filtering mechanism that 400 billion bits of information puts into the bandwidth of your creation, of your awareness. And it sits there, 400 billion bits of information, seeking out the smallest of breadcrumb that drives you to your creation, the smallest of breadcrumb. And I'll bet you guys would agree with me. If you have ever created anything of significance, I know all of you have, but if you ever created anything in your life, look back on that creation of yours. Lori told a story just a minute ago. She rode her bicycle to an event, right? And what wound up with a car, right? And with just looking back on that event, she couldn't have possibly, forcibly, or physically put all those pieces together, right? For that to actually happen. So no different with us. We have to have the vision, number one, create the feeling in the body. So we're building that energetic imprint, have this strong desire. We know exactly what it looks like, feels like, tastes like. Okay, that's number 3. And then number 4, a clear intention. You have heard of that before, right? Lori does a lot of intention work, writes these amazing intentions, right? So a clear intention, number 4. And when I say a clear intention, this is the stuff that says who you're going to be with this manifestation. Who are you going to be? So I don't know if it's $1 million, who are you going to be? Because I promise you, the universe is not going to give you that $1 million until you're ready to be it. I mean, if you've never had $1 million or $10 million or $100 million, if you've never had it, it's really, really tough to build some understanding of managing it. How would you manage it? I've got an entire retirement scenario around just $1 million. What I could do, what I would do with it in a certain order, if it was just an extra $1 million, and think about what you make per year right now, right? Don't increase that. You keep that along and you do other things because you no longer have to do the work that you're working on right now, right? How much time would you have? How much time freedom would you have if you didn't have to do all the things that netted you the dollar amount per month that you're taking in right now? So you multiply all that time by other creative interests, right? So you're still paying yourself the same amount with that $1 million, but you're also adding other things through creative interests, and you're starting to multiply that investment. Not to mention anything that has to do with interest-bearing kind of scenarios, none of that. I'm just talking about what you would do with the time freedom. All right. So the clear intention, those 4 so far. Laura, you want to expand on any of those?
No, you're doing great. Keep going.
Okay. All right. So number 5, develop an unstoppable belief. Belief. How many of you guys think that belief is important in terms of what you do? Right? I guarantee you, if you don't believe something, you won't do it. Right? And you may test some things out, but until you believe it, it doesn't become part of what you do. When we accept, believe, and surrender to an idea, that's when we have become it. So the belief part is a huge component. Right? It is our beliefs that keep us on a certain path. It is our beliefs that hold us within a specific boundary, a bandwidth. It is our beliefs. I know some of you guys may be world travelers, right? You've been to other countries, you've experienced other cultures. How are they different? Right? They are. There's many different cultures, many different belief structures, irregardless. I'm not even talking about the religious sector or the spiritual sector. I'm just talking about how people believe or perceive their town, their home, their family, right? Just some of the basics, their food that they eat, the water they drink, the footprint on this planet, right? There's various types of beliefs around that. And that's what navigates us. So once we create this unstoppable belief, it's not what we believe in now that's going to get us to that point. It's what we don't believe we can do. I mean, if you believed you could do it, wouldn't you already be there?
1,000%, 1,000%. In this wonderful class that I'm taking, The Art of Manifesting, Regan Hillier, many of you know her from her Healy days, she actually says, you do not manifest what you dream about.
Mm-mm.
You manifest your minimum level of tolerance.
Mm.
Oh my God. I want you to really think about that. And if you don't know what your minimum level of tolerance is, look at your life. Specifically, look at the area you're trying to manifest. And I sat back and I looked at some of the things that I was trying to manifest, and it was so accurate and so spot on. And there was a tipping point in my life where I went from that level of survival to I pay all my bills on time with grace and ease. Well, guess what happened? I didn't have to fight for survival anymore. I paid all my bills on time with grace and ease. There wasn't any extra ever, but my bills were paid with grace and ease. So you really got to up the ante and say, what is my minimum level of tolerance? What do I accept in this situation or around this topic?
I love it. I mean, you know, that minimum level of tolerance, it's a, if you'll notice a blade of grass, I know you probably haven't watched a blade of grass grow, but a blade of grass will do just what it needs to do to grow. Right. And that's honestly, that's the minimum level of necessity. That's nature. Nature works to a certain degree or a certain amplitude, right? It's no effort for it to grow. You know, it doesn't have to overachieve or it doesn't even underachieve. It just does. It has no belief really about it, or actually I should say no judgment. Nature has a belief around it, an energy of understanding, I should say. An energy of understanding, meaning that nature just does. It does what it does because of what it is. We do what we do, edited by this brain, this ego, right? This awareness. If we just did what we did, based on the highest level of being a human, right? I don't know that we would actually just wander along with that minimum level of tolerance. I mean, I don't know. I've not really ever worked in that minimum level of tolerance that I can ever remember. I'm the guy that quit my job, bought a house, and started my own business in the same month. That kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like I'm cannonballing into the pool. It's like do or die, baby. And it really, when you sail off to that island and you burn the ships, what's that say about your tenacity, right? You are going to make it or die, period. And this is how I think that we should really view most things. I guess I got a bit of an amplification around that from my military days, when it's, you know, it's all about act as if your life depended upon it, because it, you know, it really does. And not that there's anybody shooting at you or necessarily, you know, trying to take your life. We live folks, look at the entire existence of humanity. We live in the safest time in history. I know there's chaos and disorder everywhere, what we think, but billions of people are living a life way more so than ever before. I mean, there's no saber-toothed tigers trying to rip you apart and have you for lunch. Once upon a time, humans were both predators and prey. Think about that. Okay. In just nature. So, the fact that you are alive today, there was a statistic that was placed as 400 billion to 1 that you are alive today. Why? Well, you got the dinosaurs, the famine, right? The diseases, the natural disasters. We got the car crashes, the airplanes, and we have, we have all kinds of things that remember, the fact that you are here was 1 egg and 1 sperm out of a lot of possibilities, right? That's it. 1 came together, unified, built life, and that's you. And then all the things up to this moment that you avoided that didn't take your life, you're still here, right? But the fact you were born was a huge odds. So back to, building this scenario, these principles, developing that unstoppable belief. Number 6, acceptance. Oh my goodness. Now we're going to have some debate, right? Acceptance. How many of you guys are familiar with the universal laws? Look up the law of acceptance, right? Universal law of acceptance. It is a conscious choice to drop all of the forms of resistance. Now, this is a conscious choice. We're talking about conscious manifestation tonight, right? So you have to make a conscious choice to drop all the resistance and that are not relevant in this present moment, right? How many of you guys, none of you, I know none of you here worry about the future, and you probably never rehearse the past. I know, you guys are amazing, but you probably know somebody out there that may rehearse the past, come up to you and say, oh my gosh, you know what? I almost got hit by a car today. I almost died today, right? Now, remember I said the body doesn't know the difference between something you make up in your mind and something that you experience in a 3-dimensional world. Almost is made up in your mind, worst case scenario, and the body is right on board with that stress response. No different than if you got hit with that car. No different. This is some things we have to remember. Justified or not, we have to really make a choice, a conscious choice to drop all forms of resistance around our manifestation. Let go of what almost happened or what didn't happen, all of the things from the past. Just don't fret about what might happen, worst case scenario, tomorrow. This present moment is where we accept all of the tools, all the resources, all the capabilities that I have right now and use them to the fullest of their ability. That's what I'm doing right now. So if I don't have $1 million, if I don't have the ability to walk, if I don't have food on my table, I still have an abundance of resources in my arsenal because I have breath in my lungs and a beating heart in my chest. I am still alive, and there's infinite possibilities for my next moment. Understand that the genetic code for every cell in your body is dependent upon your energy. 97% of the genetic code creating every one of your cells is adaptive, reading the energy around you. 97%. So does that mean that you have the mother lode over the control over your body? Yes. 3% of that genetic code says it's going to be a skin cell, bone cell, muscle cell, whatever. But 97% is asking you, your awareness, what quality and what kind. And you decide that in this present moment, 800,000 cells per second. Okay, so I want you guys to feel into that and say, man, I am so powerful, right? In the creation of me. I am so powerful in the manifestation of my life. So there should be no reason that I don't have exactly what I want. So back to number one, if you don't have what you want, why not? Having that clear vision. That's probably why not. Step one. Okay. So the law of acceptance, number 6, being able to accept whatever comes. So sometimes our manifestation, we have this clear vision, this blueprint and all this stuff, and this expectations, we're forcing it into a model. And sometimes that road looks a little bit like a snake. You know, we go this way and that way and this way and that way. But if you look back on everything you've manifested to this moment, any goal you set and achieved, you'll see that it didn't come exactly like you expected, right? Lori talked about it a second ago. Certain things that came about weren't exactly, but you have to accept and surrender. Allow that to happen. Acceptance does not mean to sit back on your butt and do nothing. It doesn't mean that. It means that you have diligent efforts and that you're acting upon your vision moment by moment, acting upon that vision. Okay. All right. Number 7. This is where taking aligned action, acting upon your vision, the accepting this curvy path, but you're acting every moment, every day, right? If I wanted to be a martial arts expert, I can't just sit and watch videos, right? I need to act. I need to do some things, right? I have to get out there and practice. I have to have my body get strong. Now, I'm not saying that watching videos or even meditating on the idea isn't effective. It is. There's so many experiments out there and data, scientific data, that shows that rehearsing a specific action builds synaptic connections in the brain. Just like I told you before, we almost got hit by a car. That's a rehearsal of something that didn't actually happen. We're building synaptic connections. The body doesn't know the difference between something you make up in your mind or something that happens in your 3-dimensional world. You still have genetic expression showing that body that is full of fight or flight, anxiety, and fear for getting hit by a car. It's still there. Okay. All right. So that aligned action, very important. Number 8. I'm sorry. I think we're on number 9.
No, you're on 8.
Okay. Absolute detachment. Now, if we say, that we want a certain thing in our lives or desire a certain thing in our lives, and then we have a clear intention, and today there's a breadcrumb that shoots us off in the wrong direction, and we are beating ourselves up, attached to that not great outcome. Now we have just swayed right off the track and gone right into manifesting what? Something else, what we don't want. We're focusing on what we don't want instead of what we do want. So that detachment from an outcome, having a good vision. And what I do, one of my most powerful tools, I'll give you my little super secret, is I keep the end in sight. The end. The path to get there isn't quite up to me. I don't necessarily it doesn't have to look exactly like my map. I mean, we probably all have a map, what we would want it to look like, but how many times do you have to get over some kind of pain, some kind of triggering mechanism, some kind of suffering, some kind of limitation before a door opens? Ever experienced that? I know some of you have. I have. I have to get over something, right? I have to release something so that it makes room for a new expression, something new. All right. So absolute detachment, step away. The more we are super locked into the ego of something, the more difficult it's going to be for it to show up.
And
Okay.
It's kind of like when we set those crystal clear intentions, you can say all of this or something better, right?
Ooh.
Because and you're getting into energetic alignment with how you're going to feel when you are there.
Mhm.
You don't know that there isn't something better. You just don't know. There might be something better than what you even intended. But if you get in the way because you're attached to this specific outcome, you're not going to get to better.
Yep.
Think about
100%.
that.
100%. There's another universal law, the law of detachment, right? Take a look at, I love universal law. And there's a reason. I mean, we have a lot of rules in our world, and I have a belief structure. Remember, we talked about belief earlier. I believe we should obey the laws and bend the rules.
That's why I love you.
Because universal law is not just made for me, it's made for the entire universe. That's why it's called universal law. And it allows things to flow. And there's a medium I spoke of earlier in which everything flows, and that's a magnetic field. The field of magnetics is everywhere. Gravity operates within it. Oxygen molecules operate within it. The planets move within it. Every molecule in your body moves within it. And so when we want something, we're creating a signature, a frequency from the thought and the feeling. This is two very distinct platforms. The energy of the thought is the synaptic energy, the energy going through the neurons of the brain. Those thoughts, the electron flow that moves in those synaptic connections creates a magnetic field. And like I said, when you have that neural bundling that I was telling you about, it makes a coherent electromagnetic field going out as a wave, as a frequency, or actually it's a grouping of frequencies. Then when you have a feeling in the body is this walking, talking antenna filled with water, minerals, right? Conductive material that vibrates at a frequency of the emotion, right? How many of you guys know the emotion codes? You take a look at emotion codes, there's different energy levels, the lower emotions, the higher emotions, they have different frequencies. And that when you are having an emotion, your body literally, there's many different imaging systems that can see that and show you the signature, what it looks like in your body. So your body's transmitting, but and you can have an emotion of loneliness or lack or confusion, and in your mind saying, I'm smart, I'm wise, I'm awesome. And that's incoherent, right? Or you can have it the other way around. You could be looking in a mirror thinking, I'm amazing, and then you're judging yourself because, oh my God, look at that little dimple right there. Yeah. You follow me? So that's incoherence. And in wave theory, actually in physics as well, this law of constructive interference and destructive interference, these are physical laws. Constructive interference is when two like frequencies amplify each other. So the thoughts in your mind, right, energetic magnetic emissions, and the feelings in your body, coherent signals that amplify and become a stronger signal. I mean, have you ever walked in a room and you saw somebody and you could just feel, right? You can just feel. Now that can happen without actually seeing anyone, by the way. But the point is like, you can get this feeling, and it's a coherent wave between you and either the environment or you and other beings. Okay. So feel that, think about that. Isn't that great? So this is back to that, when we detach from certain things, right? A thought that may keep us limited. Remember, that builds that signal, that frequency that goes out into the world. An emotion within the body that is not pleasant, but it's here right now in this present moment. Detaching from it. think about this, 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. They are going to happen irregardless. It doesn't mean they're all true. Doesn't mean that they all have to guide you. Just means it's the mind doing its job. You've heard me mention this before. Michael Singer's book, Untethered Soul, an amazing resource to help you understand the mind's purpose. It simply wants to make sense of things. And it will say redundant stuff. It will make shit up just so that it makes sense of whatever your senses are taking in. Okay. So detach. Those universal laws, very helpful. Lori, you want to add any of this yet?
I'm just sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for number 9. I've got some stuff to, when you're done here, to wrap things up, but.
Okay, so number 9, folks, support yourself. Support yourself. I have what I call a self-care protocol. My self-care protocol, it's some simple stuff. It's free. You can all do it. I don't care what kind of physical condition you're in. It's just support yourself. Number 1, I mean, these are just, there's only 5 of them, real easy. Number 1, hydrate. Drink water, folks. This is good, clear, pure water. Get at least half your body weight in ounces of water every day. There you go, Dixie. Yes, drink up. Drink half your body weight in ounces of water. That's just kind of a minimum. Number 2, breathe. I mean, that sounds very simple, right? But a good breath is one that fills your lungs. I want you guys to understand, find your collarbones. You follow your collarbones right here. Okay. And then you go all the way down to the very lowest rib on your body, very bottom, last rib. That's how big each lung is. How many of you guys fill them up? Your body expands. It's designed to expand upward and outward. When you take a good full breath, you expand outward and upward, right? It expands you, it expands your field. So a good deep breath, every single one, right? And a good idea for breathing, for down regulating stress response, is to exhale for twice as long as the inhale. It doesn't matter if it's a 2-second to 4-second ratio, whatever. The point is, it's just your inhale is half of your exhale. That shifts your vagal tone. That shifts the vagus nerve, which is the body speaking to the brain, changes you from that sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, into parasympathetic, rest and digest, just by breathing. Okay, number 2. Number 3, movement. Movement. I mean, dance, yoga, roll around on the floor, do stretching exercises. And I say roll around on the floor because I kid you not, just lay on the floor and roll back and forth for 2 minutes. You think that's a workout? It is. And not only that, because the compression on your body, you're actually pumping the lymphatic system. That's the whole point of movement, is to help detox the body. All right. So movement. Number 4, grounding. Go out there, put your feet in the earth. I know some of you love to be outside in nature, right? Yeah. Barefoot, or hands on the earth. Grounding is super huge. It's an amazing antioxidant. Number 5, my favorite, folks, is to find a reason to fall in love with life. When you fall in love with life, life falls in love with you. I promise you, it's a courtship. Romancing life, life romances you, and you get all kinds of cool little treasures with that. Right? So that's that support yourself, number 9. All right. Last one, number 10, be very clear as a laser beam with what you're trying to do. Be clear. Okay. The idea might be effortless, but to consciously manifest, the idea is easy. But what happens to an idea? How many of you guys have had an idea? It was amazing in the moment. Later on, when you try to discuss it with somebody, you forgot half of it, right? write it down. You get an idea, write it down. Be as clear as you can with the content. No different than trying to remember your dreams. I mean, you guys have had an amazing dream. You wake up the next morning, in the morning, within seconds, you can't remember it. And you're like, gosh, what was that dream? It was so cool. It was amazing, right? Well, that's because there is this shift between the theta state, the brainwave state, the sleep, all the way through alpha and then into beta, which is our waking state. It separates that information. So when you have an idea, it does the same thing. An idea is a gift from God, like I said before. Write it down. If that's your manifestation, if that's your clear intention, if that's what you're working on, then build the feeling in the body, rehearse that clear intention, and be very, very clear. So how's that? Number 10.
Amazing. Amazing.
All right. I love it. Anything else you want to expand on within that grouping?
Well, how about this? Let's just look at this kind of little summary that I came up with here. It goes beyond that, but it ties it all together. So every layer of your being, including your physical body, must be in alignment with what you want to manifest. Every layer of your being. It makes those feelings so important because your body knows. You can't lie to your body. Your body knows. Number 2, in order to manifest faster, you must become an energetic match for what you're calling in. Again, how are you going to feel when you get there? How are you going to feel when you get there? And then do things that make you feel that way. I had my very first coach in my coach training program had a client, a Fortune 500 client, and he wanted to manifest a red Ferrari. And so she kept asking him over and over and over again, how are you going to feel when you have the red Ferrari? And he said, free. Like he would feel like if he had the freedom to buy that red Ferrari, then he could do anything he wanted to do. So she said, what can you do on a daily basis to feel free? And he said, well, I could get down on the floor and finger paint with my 3-year-old daughter and not worry about making a mess. Just like finger painting's on the list. What else? And he said, I could not wear any underwear on under my Armani suits when I go out on sales calls. And she said, commando it is. And honest to God, after that one, I can't remember what else was on his list. But the moral of the story is that within 6 months, he got a huge bonus check, more than enough money to pay cash for the red Ferrari. So he goes to the dealership, test drives the car, takes it out for an hour. Highways, byways, country roads. Just really has the time of his life. Comes back in, hands the salesman the keys and says, thank you very much. Walks out of the car dealership and down the street and books a 1-month safari to Africa for his entire family. Because it was never about the red Ferrari. It was about the freedom to do what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I encourage you to do some things on a daily basis that are going to help you to feel the way you're going to feel when you have what it is you really, really want. And then number 3, and this is so important, and we really haven't touched on this that much. You must remove the trauma from your body to return to your pure, natural, crystalline state. You must remove the trauma from your body. Anybody have any idea how we might be able to do that? OMG, we have these beautiful little devices. Oh, wait, Wait, I have another one. Yes, I run 4 of these a day. 4. So I've constantly got 2 on the charger and 2 that I'm using. Guess what's in here? A coaching module. Oh my goodness. Guess who's running a 6-month group coaching program that helps you remove the trauma from your body and from your psyche and from your heart and your mind and your soul? Just saying. One of your favorite epigenetic geeks is probably the one that's a coach, not the one that's an engineer.
Just saying, there's a formula for that, right?
There is. There is.
I love
There
that trauma
is.
piece too, because if you understand, remember one of the biggest component to our manifestation is the emotion, the feeling of it, because just having a thought is only a small piece, and thoughts are fleeting. As I mentioned before, 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and they're just bouncing around. Some of them just trying to make sense of what the senses are taking in. Okay. So if we really want to hone in that reticular activating system I told you before, its input is 400 billion bits of information per second. That's the reticular activating system is our subconscious, our conscious, all of the divine tools that this soul within this inhabitants of this body has, all of it. 400 billion bits of information per second. But I'm going to tell you, out of all of that, you want to know what you and I are conscious of, how much of it we're conscious of right now? Everything you're taking in. Just sit back for a minute with your peripheral and see everything you see, smell everything you smell, hear everything you hear, feel everything you feel. All of that is still only 2,000 bits out of that 400 billion. So conscious awareness is much smaller in bandwidth than that subconscious awareness. Okay, so there's a lot going on in the background. This is where the manifestation, actually our subconscious, our reticular activating system assists us. Because when we feel the feeling in the body of having it, it amplifies the signal 100-fold. 100-fold. It's to have a feeling in your body, it means that the idea, the thought, the chemistry had to solidify into 3-dimensional form. An idea, what's an idea? Is it 3-dimensional form? Can you open that brain cell and see it? No. So, like I said, it is the body that is the mother lode of our manifestation, because it's what orbits within this world, within this life. It's what takes the soul's push and puts it into form, right? But there's some filtering mechanisms that get in the way. The one filtering mechanism is the mind, gets in the way. Okay. The next one is a closed heart, gets in the way. Folks, by opening our hearts, by allowing that love guidance to be our rudder, our soul now can navigate these bodies a little bit more diligently. And manifestation becomes a lot easier because we're not holding on to egoic content. And these hearts know. The mind thinks, the heart knows. Make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of you don't know this, but in my past life before Healy, I was commonly referred to as the angel lady, because I actually created a line of angelic message portraits. And since we're talking about manifestation, I thought I'd share one of them with you tonight. This is our manifestation angel. And all of these angels actually have a message. So just as you're gazing upon this angel, feel into this. What is it that wants to spring forth from the depths of your soul? What wants to be born? What's trying to emerge? What is your heart yearning for? These inspirations and seeds of ideas were planted in your heart for a reason. They've been inspired by your spirit, that greater part of yourself that remembers your very reason for being. And they're ready to burst into bloom. They're simply waiting for you to say yes. This manifestation angel reminds us that as co-creative forces in this grand playground called Earth, we have the innate ability to live the life of our dreams. All we truly need do is set the intention to create anew, focus on how great we will feel when this new creation takes form in our lives, and allow the universe to do the rest. I assure you, you will be inspired. You will be given the right guidance and nudges and intuitions and everything you need to get there once you become a vibrational match to what it is you are so wanting. And what's really cool, in my group coaching program, we actually take these angels and embed them into the healing, so their energy gets magnified through the quantum sensor into your energy field. I have been doing this in the groups for about, I don't know, 6 months. Never dawned on me to actually do it for myself, Dr. Heal Thyself, right? So one day I did it and I ran that program. It was like on steroids. I couldn't believe how much more energy was put out just by adding that high frequency artwork into the program. So yes, I have fun with the Healy coaching module.
One of the things you notice there is in that angel, the greens. What color is the heart chakra? Green. And that's the cool thing about the alignments. I love those alignments. I saw so many things in that angel, in that painting. As you widen your gaze and you stop seeing with the eye and start seeing with the heart, there's so many things that come out. So I'm super excited. I see somebody's asked about those 10 principles. We'll make sure to put a little package together that you guys can have a peek at those 10 principles. They're guides to follow, and sometimes it's good to have a map. It's good to have a map, some kind of a little formula to navigate with. So yeah, make sure we'll get that to you guys. And if you found this valuable, then certainly spread the word. Lori she's so awesome. I love you, Lori. She puts the recordings out there, and you can share it with people. Rehearse it again. That's a cool way of actually getting those principles also. Taking notes. But the point is there's so many little nuggets. I think that when you're here live, I can feel you guys. I feel you. Thank you for being here. I feel some of you stronger than others. But something, the fun part about that is that wherever we're coherent, or wherever we're incoherent, there's a reason, right? And we amplify each other. Sometimes the signals that are within another that are misaligning them are strong signals in someone else to help realign them. So in other words, I've been many, many times in the presence of one with trauma and conditions and failure and a lot of turmoil. And as long as I hold this strong intention, my heart stays clear and I keep my vision pure, it will align them. So this is the power we have to influence others. No matter what, we're the influencer of at least one, if not millions. So thank you guys for being here. I'm so grateful. So good to see you. And hey, if this is your first time, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And guess what? If you want to join us again on the 11th of December, we would be thrilled to have you.
Stay tuned for the topic for next month. It's just a little hint. It'll be Christmas time, holiday time. Sometimes we talk about what that has to do with the epigenetics of your body, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. It's so good to see you guys. I love you all.
Thank
Big
you.
hugs,
We love you.
big kisses.
Mwah.
Mwah.
Love
See-
you guys. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
See you again soon. Thanks.